Okay, one of the things that I just get such a charge out of about every time we film is Darren's bringing a shovel along or something else, digging around, looking at corn stalks, looking at bugs. We're trying to film today, Darren. You know, we got stuff to do.
Well, I absolutely love being outside. I love being in fields, and I like looking around for things that are opportunities for us. The ground that we're on here is ground that's been in our family for years and years. And so you think, boy, we've got to have it all figured out, but you haven't figured out this particular soil. We've got some really high magnesium levels. It's very easy to compact. It stays really wet in the spring. It's really tight soil. So I'm always concerned in this type of ground as to where we're at with compaction. Now, you could have the same problem in light, sugar sandy soils. You can have compaction issues there too. The important thing is to find out where those compaction layers are. That's why I'm digging around out here while Brian's goofing around, I don't know, fixing his hair or whatnot. I'm out here actually working. And in this particular field, I found that we've got some compaction down about 8 or 9 inches deep. Now, as you can see, this is a conventionally tilled field.
Yeah, let's go right to it.
I can tell you right where our depth was.
All right, let's see a little demonstration.
All right, well, what I want to do, I like to take a shovel like a tile spade. It's fairly narrow, 4 or 5 inches wide, and it's a good 12, 18 inch deep shovel. That way I can dig in. I'm not trying to put a 2-foot wide scoop shovel in or something like that. I want something that's fairly narrow. Now, you can find these at any hardware store. There's no problem there.
Okay, come on, quit stalling.
Over in the Ukraine, I had to have some guys make me one. They actually made a shovel. So if you guys are watching on the internet, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Okay, so then you just take your shovel and you just put a little bit of weight on it and push it down as far as you can go. Okay, now, when you hit something that's hard, like a compaction layer,
now you have to jump.
You can jump up and down on the thing, and you can't get it to go any farther. So this is where you say, hey, I've got an issue down there. And where it's going to be is at the depth of your tillage. And this ground's pretty tight.
Yep,
but there's a water line here that's about 8, 9 inches deep.
Yep, and that's exactly how deep we set the chisel plow. We had actually zone built this ground several times in the past, and this fall we decided to try something different. We're always experimenting in our farm just to see what actually works.
Well,
and
it's funny because when I can show Brian something that works, he always has to fight it and say, well, maybe there's another way that I don't have to do it the way Darren thinks. And I don't know if you've got a brother like this, but he's been like this his whole life.
Okay, let's talk about zone tillage.
In this type of ground, here's what's going on. We can run a chisel plow, and you can run it as deep as you want. You can do a V-ripper. You can run it as deep as you want. All we're going to do over time is create a compaction layer where you're doing the depth of that tillage. So say you're running a V-ripper out there 12 or maybe even 14 inches deep, which I don't think you can do, but maybe you can. Say 12 or 14 inches deep. You do that for a few years, and what happens is you end up creating a hard pan at that layer. It doesn't matter if you're running at 8 inches or 12 or 14. It's going to create a hard pan at that tillage layer at some point. Just takes a little bit of time. So what you do with deep zone tillage, and here's what I really like. It's a straight shank. It's not a V shank. It's not this big wide thing that's going to turn everything over with the soil. It's just a straight shank. We run it down about 20 inches deep, and we can pull through any man-made layer that we're going to have in our type of farming. So if you've got something at 12 or 14 inches deep, no problem. I'm running it at about 20. So I'm going down through any tillage that's man-made. I'm also going through that natural layer that's down deeper in our soil, typically about 16 or 18 inches deep in our part of the world. It could be a little different where you're at. And we're going through both compaction layers down in our soil. So we allow water to move through, we allow roots to get down, yet we still don't tear up everything out in the field. So in the spring, we can still get out in the field without making a big mess.
Okay, so the whole key is we're running just a straight shank with no winged point or anything. It's just a straight point. And the reason why we're doing this is we just want to make some slices out in the soil. If you have a C shank and you've got a wide wing point, what's going to happen is you're going to start mixing some of the subsoil with the topsoil. That's usually not good. And also you have more of a tendency to create compaction just down deeper at the depth that you run that wing point in the C shank. So that's why we like the straight shank, the straight point. On our farm, we've been using a Brilliant Zone Commander for quite a few years. We really like it, but let's keep in mind too, it's just a tool. It's not the end all be all. You're not going to gain 50 bushels most of the time
just
from running this.
But
yes, it's just one step in a program, but compaction is a major issue on farms. That's why we do like the zone tillage.
One more thing too, if you've got problems with high nitrate levels, high salt levels, pH that's going up every year, you've probably got some drainage issues. And I know for a lot of guys, they say, well, I've already got drainage tile out there. Maybe my tile isn't working very well. Well, you may need to put that tile a little closer. You may also have a hard pan over the top. And a good illustration of this would be like a straw. If you put a finger on top of a straw, all that water stays there. It can't get away. So you have to break away that finger off the top of the straw, or that compaction layer up in the top profile of your soil. Once you break through that compaction, tile lines start running right away. And a good way to do it is with zone tillage.
Well, we are a pretty big believer in zone tillage. Another thing we're a big believer in is controlling weeds like our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?